Alright, and I'm back. Sorry for missing the last couple of games, but I've had a pretty crippling cold the last few days. So, no lead in joke. Let's just get right into the meat and potatoes of this. I want to talk about a couple of things before I get into my main topic, the trade deadline. Let's first off start by talking about Murray. Andy Murray's been behaving himself a little better. He's giving he put Perron, Oshie, and Berglund together again the other night, and he rewarded himself by seeing a couple of goals in the end of the Phoenix game, I think. So that line can really click, and I really wish Andy Murray would play them better. Tonight against Phoenix, second round two of Phoenix recently, Berglund and Perron both were under 13 minutes, I think. I mean, I was watching the times during the game, so Berglund was about 12 something, so he might have been 13 actually, but Perron definitely was in the 10 or 11 minute range, and I really wish he would give these guys more time because they really need it. All right, let's move on. We all know I'm not a huge Andy Murray fan, so Jay McClement, 3 goals in 3 games if I've got that right, and dang, is he definitely showing what he's worth. I really hope we re-sign this guy next year. Another thing I want to talk about past McClement was Koliakovo, and he has made such a difference after coming here. After that trade, I mean, it's really night and day almost between what the Blues are before the Koliakovo trade and after the Koliakovo trade. He is solid in his own zone. He's solid in the offensive zone. He's solid in the neutral zone as far as defense is concerned. And then when you get into offense, he's got that outlet passer you're looking for since the beginning of the year. So when you compare the Blues before the Koliakovo trade and after the Koliakovo trade, it's just such a big difference this guy makes in our lineup. And I'm really glad he's getting the opportunity to prove himself as a player in this league. It's really fortunate that Toronto didn't just waste him. All right, and then last thing I want to talk about before I touch up on the trade deadline, that is Jan Stastny being waived. And I'm totally okay with this. And at first you might think this isn't a big deal, but I think it really says something about how much of an impact B.J. Crombeen has made since coming here, that the Blues are willing to waive Jan Stastny. Because Jan Stastny's role basically got filled by Crombeen, and so I mean it's unfortunate that Jan, a guy with St. Louis ties, is not going to probably be in the long-term future for this franchise, but it happens. All right, so let's get in and talk about it. What I think is going to happen before the trade deadline, and what I would like to see happen. You're either 3 or 2 points out. Now that I think about it, we might be 2 points out, but we're still a game away from the 8th place. So, with that in mind, let's talk about the deadline. And the number one guy people think of in St. Louis when you talk trades right now is Keith Tkachuk. And for good reason. He's a UFA, and he always comes back here. He's like a lost puppy when we trade him. So, why wouldn't you deal Keith Tkachuk? And that's fine. Let's talk about what a reasonable expectation for what we should get when we deal Tkachuk, which would be I would say at least greater than a second rounder. All right, I mean let's look at other trades that have happened recently in the NHL. Schneider gets traded from Atlanta to Montreal. Montreal gives up a second rounder and a third rounder, and Schneider isn't going to nearly help a team as much as Tkachuk is. Even though Tkachuk is old, I understand that. Even though Tkachuk is not in his heyday anymore, I understand this. But he should still return more than a second and a third rounder. And I mean, those same arguments can be said for Schneider anyway. And then Comrie and Kimpoli coming away from the Islanders and going to the Senators. The Senators gave up McCammon, who Blues fans would recognize the name, and a first rounder. So, and even though the first rounder is probably going to be 30th overall coming from San Jose, you still got to think that Comrie and Kimpoli for McGammon and a first, you got to think Tkachuk would at least be worth a low first round pick if we're going to trade him. So Tkachuk's value has to be greater than a second round draft pick. So it could be a second round draft pick and a prospect. It could be a third round pick and a better prospect. But okay. Now, as far as actually trading, should we sell? Should we buy? Should we come out somewhere in the middle? And I think the best thing to do right now probably is sit tight, but I'll get into that in a minute. But if we are going to make trades, we should sell right now. I mean, I know we are out of the playoff picture by only 2 points or 3 points. I don't know how many right now. It depends on who does what tonight. But the fact that we are this close is definitely a good thing, and I would not sell. I would not buy. There's been talk, and it's more than just on message boards now. I can't remember who, but one of the normal rumor mill guys coming out with Pronger, St. Louis wanting Chris Pronger. Let's talk about this. Let's get into this. I really want to address this. Chris Pronger is 34 years old. He is making a $6.25 million contract for this year and next year, and he's going to want that when he re-signs again. So it's not a smart move as far as salary is concerned to sign Chris Pronger. And not only that, our defensive core is perfectly fine right now, and it's fine for the future. You got Johnson, you got Pietrangelo, you got Koliakovo, you got, I mean, come on. And then you got Brewer, Jackman, McKee, those guys, although two of those three probably won't be stuck around here for longer. You got Cole, you got other guys. So, I mean, our defensive core is stacked. Then you still have those guys like Wagner and Wojciechowski, and Strachan, guys who are kind of on the fringe but are still young enough to still kind of develop. So, yeah. What would be nice to see at this trade deadline is trading away McKee, who's making a $4 million contract, and we all know that it would be really nice to have that off the books. But I mean, you don't have to give him away. You don't have to. We're not in a position to really be forced to make any deals right now, and that's a good thing. That this team right now, without any trades, has managed to move itself up from last in the conference to almost 8th in the conference. Why you want to even try to mess with that formula and think about trading, either selling or buying, either way, I don't see why you need to do it. Why not just keep with this core of guys, maybe trade guys who don't have long-term plans here, guys, and aren't mattering too much. Legacy, if anybody will take him for anything, go ahead and do it. McKee, High Note, guys like that, fine. I'm all for trading them. But when you start talking trade proposals like first round and third round for Pronger, that just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. Or as soon as you start throwing out names like Perron, Oshie, Backus, especially Backus. Backus was signed to an offer sheet and he cannot be traded until July 1st. It's against the rules. Can't be done. Don't offer him in trade proposals. So ultimately, we don't need to do much with this team. This team is either going to be a playoff contender or is not. And this team has the ability and the opportunity to do either. It's up to them where they go. And if they're going to make the playoffs, they're going to make the playoffs and probably exit in the first or second round. And if they don't make the playoffs, well, then we all know that we get a decent draft pick coming up in the draft line. I'm not going to be upset if we sell. I'm probably going to be a little confused if we buy. And if we stand pat, I'm good with that too. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry I didn't have one for you guys basically last week all entirely, but it was a rough week. I wiped out with a cold, so I will see you guys later, and let's go beat those Wings. Which shouldn't be hard to do. Nashville just got done obliterating them. All right, I'll see you guys later.